This week's full moon in Aquarius may have us really taking stock of our priorities and feeling super ambitious moving forward with all of our goals. My name is Crystal Lynn. I'm your modern magic mentor. I created the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom, and I want to explain to you a little bit about the deeper astrology going on with this week's full moon in Aquarius on August 1st. So, of course, as usual, we are going to share the screen so that you can see exactly what this looks like. And now you can see that we have the chart up on the screen. We can see that this is happening August 1st at about 2:31 p.m. if you're on the East Coast here. So what we notice is, of course, this is a full moon. So the sun and the moon are exactly opposite each other. The sun is now domicile in Leo, and the moon is in Aquarius, exactly opposite. And so this is the full moon that we will naturally get at this time of year. The moon being in Aquarius has a lot of uniqueness to it. One of the key words that goes along with Aquarius is unique, is standing out. Now, the sun also wants to stand out in Leo. So Leo and Aquarius have this sympathy between each other of standing out. One wants to be the center of attention, and one often is in the back watching things from a higher perspective. So if we thought about it, you might have the sun as being in Leo anyway, as being the actor, and then perhaps the Aquarian placement, in this case, the moon, would be either the person who designs all the sets and has a scope of how the whole thing goes, or more of a producer, where everything has to go, at what time, just the entire scheme understood, as well as the beginning, middle, and end of the production of what's going on. So thinking about this in our lives, we might notice that we are trying to figure out where we stand in the production of our life and how we are going about where we are in that process, in whatever our long-term goals are, or perhaps even in the way that we are aligning with where we currently are at now. Now, this is a full moon, so it is a very reflective time where we can notice how far we've come in some ways. You might even look back to when we had the new moon in Aquarius about 6 months ago and just say, how far have I come in that journey? In the last 6 months, what goals have I been working towards? How do I feel about those? Is it time for me to adjust them? Because now I've learned so much that I'm ready to move forward with something different, very midpoint energy with this. If you're in a story, you achieve what you thought you were going for, or you're close to it, but now you have a deeper understanding that redefines your goals. So this could be a time where we redefine our goals, and even more so, because again, as we're looking at this full moon, if we zone in on it, we see that close by, and the moon will be moving fast enough to encounter Jupiter later in the day. We do have this this square with Jupiter. So this is an aspect that has the keyword of conflict, but also with Jupiter, it's usually not such a conflicting thing. Jupiter is a benefic and the greater benefic. So we expect positive things from Jupiter. So when we're looking at an aspect like the square, it's of the nature of Mars, which really inspires us to action. So this is why Jupiter is saying, grand scheme, how does what I'm doing align with my ideals, which is something that could go for both a Jupiterian thing and an Aquarian perspective. Jupiter's in Taurus. How many resources do I need or do I have that support where I'm going? What resources do I have to build with if I'm feeling unclear with where I'm going or with what I'm doing? These are all questions you can be asking yourself. And Jupiter is not the only aspect at play here, because yes, the sun and the moon are interacting with Jupiter more directly. But what we also find is that on this day, Jupiter is going to have an exact, you can see at 13 here, an exact trine with Mars. This brings more of the ambitious energy in. This brings even more action to it. And it makes action and energy easy to access with this. So we're seeing that as an aspect as well. And then if we get even more detailed, we can look at Mercury, who's close to Mars in Virgo, where Mercury loves to be. Virgo is actually for Mercury not only a sign of domicile, but also exaltation. It's a very unique situation in astrology. Mercury is the only planet that actually has one sign that is both domicile and exaltation. For planets like Mars, there are different signs for all of those things. But Mercury on this day, as we can see, is going to exactly oppose, Mercury is moving fast at this point, but is going to exactly oppose Saturn. So while we have this bigger picture of the sun and the moon opposing each other with a full moon, giving us some clarity, telling us what's working and what's not, what we need to hold on to, what we can let go of, also being aspected by Jupiter saying, hey, let's take action. Let's assess what our resources are and what we can use here. And it's going to be easy to find the energy to do it and to want to do it. And we have a lot of calculating ambition, a lot of ease of access to organize things. Saturn is going to say, okay, but at least think it through twice. This is the make your list, check it over, make sure you didn't miss anything kind of aspect. With Saturn opposing Mercury, we're saying there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of organizing. We might be moving a little bit too fast with it. So we want to take our time and make sure that the steps we put into place for this are ones that are practical, that are reasonable. And then again, we see Saturn's in Pisces. So there is a little aspect here that says if something feels fuzzy, if it's not really clicking, let's explore it a little bit deeper. Let's define it a little bit more and bring some boundaries into it so that we understand what we're working with. Or if you feel like you're too pigeonholed, this might be a good energy for you to be able to allow some of those boundaries to dissolve. It depends on where you currently are at and how you can actually use this energy to your benefit, always keeping that in mind. And so when we're looking at how this full moon applies to you personally, naturally, we want to look at where Aquarius is in your chart. You can look at the axis of Aquarius and Leo, of course, but Aquarius is where the full moon is occurring. So wherever that is for you in your chart, whichever house number is associated with it, you can see it this way. That's where the area of life may be most noticeable for this moon for you, especially if, as we see in this case, if this is happening in one of these, the 10 or the 4, or the 7, and this would be the 1. So if it's in one of these 4, but even more especially in the first, so if you are an Aquarius rising, then this is very noticeable for you. You might feel it, especially even more so if the moon is activated somehow in your chart in some way. So those are things to keep in mind. If you're an Aquarius rising, a Scorpio rising, a Leo rising, or a Taurus rising, you may notice this a little bit more. If you're not, you may also just see a really beautiful full moon. You can look at the house and see where it is for you and maybe take more conscious action, choosing to focus on that and recognize what's happening there. Those are all of your options that you have the ability to do. This is a transit and a situation that is asking us to walk our talk, very much like my dog is doing right now. Decide what it is you believe, decide what purposes and what causes you have the most ambition towards, the most priority with, and then decide what unique perspectives you have, what thoughts outside of yourself or objective opinions you have of things, what big picture focuses you can use to plan for your long term, to plan for things that you want to see happen, to do the long-term planning and say, this is what I want to see. These are the steps that I can start taking today that will create that future. So an affirmation that I have a suggestion of is, I am true and honest to myself and my ideals. So again, embodying the idea of walking our talk, practicing the things that we would teach. And in order to apply it, again, you can make a list of what your priorities are, what's the most important to you, and lean into taking the first action towards those goals. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I also have created an entirely new free downloadable PDF workbook that's going to show you the entire month of August in transits and a little calendar that you can actually mark stuff in with, and also shows you all of the lunations and as the sun moves from one season to another. So you can see those as well, and then set actual goals. There's an entire page for goal setting along with the moon that you can use on top of all of that. And of course, the link to be able to grab that is going to be right down below in the description of this video to make it super easy. And you can actually sign up to receive those every month automatically so that you can move in alignment with everything and do all the things that you want to do to feel super successful as you deserve. I hope that this full moon in Aquarius gives you all of the insight and the foresight that you need to feel supported, to feel unique and special, and to recognize your amazing gifts.